The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
So as we reported earlier, Bitcoin and Ether are back up today. So is the worst behind them, or are sell-offs going to continue? Joining us now is Anastasia Amoroso. She's the Managing Director and Chief Investment Strategist at iCapital Network. With Grayscale, they have a partnership letting 6,700 registered investment advisors and independent broker-dealers have access to Grayscale's crypto funds. Grayscale is owned by DCG, parent company of CoinDesk. Hello, Anastasia.
Hi, Lawrence. Good to see you.
Good to have you. So, in your view, what caused the big sell-off and subsequent rally in Bitcoin over the past few days? Do you have any insight as to what's going on in the market there?
Well, I think near term, things tend to be very technically driven. And I think that's what's been happening. We've seen a monster rally in Bitcoin over the summer, and it doesn't surprise me. You probably had some profit taking and some sentiment pulling back. And then you were having this conversation about the Fed potentially tapering in September. And what does that mean for rate hikes? So I think all of that played into a bit of a consolidation. But as you guys pointed out in the newsletter this morning, Bitcoin is trading at a key technical trading level. And as long as it sort of consolidates around these levels, you could see some buyers come into the space. Now, I will say, as a longer term focused company and focused individual, I tend to look through some of these near term pullbacks. And I have to step back and say, what is the longer term opportunity here around Bitcoin and crypto assets? And as we all know, this is an emerging nascent asset class, but it's going to continue to grow rapidly and measurably. And that's why for our clients, for our financial advisors, we want to make sure we have a longer term strategic allocation to crypto.
So, of course, as you mentioned, it's not just about Bitcoin. It is also about other cryptocurrencies. Do you think we're going to start to see an acceleration into the altcoins and a rotation out of Bitcoin, in fact, and perhaps even out of Ether and into the altcoins? Or are we going to see perhaps, some growth in Ether and a lot more growth in the alts, or vice versa? How do you see that? How do you see among the three general sorts of classes here, ETH, Bitcoin, and alts? How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, well, clearly there's a very specific return drivers for each one. But I will say that a lot of individuals, as they embark on the crypto journey, they learn more and more, and they add to their kind of arsenal of things that they want to be participating in the crypto space. So we should certainly not discount Bitcoin, because I think that's a massive potential for future adoption of that particular cryptocurrency in the payment system. This is a $200 trillion global consumer payment system. And if some of that shifts towards settling transactions in Bitcoin, I think that's a massive opportunity. And that's one of the things that makes us have an optimistic, constructive view on this space. But as you pointed out, there's over 6,000 different protocols out there, and they're finding different applications. So I think individuals, investors should think about more to crypto than just Bitcoin, and participate in some of those altcoins as well. Now, I did say there's over 6,000 of them out there, and not every protocol is the highest quality protocol. So we want to be careful, and we want to make sure that we focus on some of the larger cap coins that we can quantify some of the potential.
Yeah, along those lines, you have this partnership with Grayscale, and it involves your RIAs and the broker dealers. It allows them to invest in some of the majors through Grayscale. Some of those funds include things for, say, Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin. Is there any demand among these RIAs and among the broker dealers for things like Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin? Or is it still, are those sort of like, oh, nice to haves, but not really of interest? We'd rather put it in the likes of, Chainlink and Cardano and Bitcoin itself.
Yeah, well, Lawrence, as I mentioned, this is a journey. And for many financial advisors, candidly, this is the beginning of the journey. The fact that we do have a product that is registered and that is reporting to the SEC, and we're now offering that to financial advisors, that is their first entree for many of them, probably into the space. So I think it's going to be a big learning process, a big education process, and I'm sure it will take time before some of the other altcoins are going to go mainstream with the financial advisors. But I will say, broadly speaking, there's a lot of focus on crypto space from financial advisors and their clients. We see that from surveys. We see that from client conversations. We see that from family offices. 45% of family offices plan to allocate to crypto, and I think something like 30% already have. So I think the demand is there, but as we do collectively as an industry a better job at educating advisors and clients about what's all out there and what are the use cases for different protocols, I think the demand for that is going to pick up.
Nonetheless, after you educate those investment advisors, what obstacles remain in getting them into crypto? What concerns do they have in getting their clients into digital assets?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the concerns because there's definitely a list of concerns that needs to be addressed. And I will say regulation is right there at the top of the list. As you talked about on the show, it's really not a matter of if the industry is going to get regulated. I think it's a matter of when and how exactly is the industry going to get regulated. So for a lot of our clients, I think there's actually a silver lining to that, because I don't think the regulators are going to regulate the industry out of business, but instead they're going to put guardrails and framework and really sort of legitimize the industry by adding some of that regulation. So it's a risk, it's a concern, but also the fact that there's so much focus on it, and I think productive discussion that alleviates some of the concerns. The other big one I will say, and this is often in the headlines, is the security risks and breaches and potential risk of fraud. So as the former guest just said, this is investment in the crypto ecosystem, and we're going to need to continue to invest in security and make sure that we alleviate those concerns.